Hello, everyone. I'm Pete Wright with LexChat, and I'm joined today by our in house technical expert, Michael Clemente. Today, we're diving into how to incorporate banner printing into your Canon image prograph workflow. We'll walk through everything you need to know to add this extra revenue source into your business. So, Michael, we're talking about ways to incorporate banners into your business to bring in that extra flow of cash. Are Canon's printers, whether it's the Pro, the GP, or the TM, whatever, are they capable of printing for outdoors?
Yeah, but there's a couple of things that we probably need to discuss first to understand a little bit more about why.
All right. So, before we go into those, what is it that makes these printers with the aqueous ink capable of printing for outdoors?
It's actually two things that really matter. It's one that you have fully pigmented inks. So the Pro series, the GP series, the TM, the TX, those are all fully capable of outdoor printing because they are fully pigmented inks. The water resistance on those inks is very high. If you're dealing with dye on the other side of things, you're not getting that water resistance. Things will run even in a water resistant coating. So the other thing is the coating on the product that's used to hold the ink in place. So we're talking about macroporous coatings that are placed on some of the products that are typically, say tough coat on them. When you look at LexShed's website, a lot of those products have that tough coat on them. And there are some that don't say tough coat, but they're still water resistant. So we're going to kind of go over those today and tell you which ones specifically. But the coating really and the ink combination is what makes things water resistant.
So, then let's talk a little bit about some of the products that we have available that will work on any of the Canon printers to use for banners. So, let's go through that.
Sure. Um, the first one is really just a typical what you're used to seeing and thinking about when you hear the term banner, and that's that rubbery vinyl based material that you feel in your hand. That's kind of reinforced vinyl. That's what they call it because you could see threads in it. It's got the denier is what they call it when the threads cross, reinforce it, and then basically you got vinyl filling in the gaps. And that's actually going to be called Tough Coat Thrifty Banner, and we have two versions of that. One is our blockout, and one is just a regular thrifty banner. The blockout's a little bit more in price, but you get a black back, and that's really typical for people that want to be able to have a blockout where you're putting something up against a fence per se, and there's sun behind it. You don't want to be able to see the cross hatches of the fence, and you want to have that blocked out. Then you would use the blockout. And the thrifty banner is just a little bit less expensive and doesn't have a blockout.
Now, outside of the thrifty banner, I know there's some other options as well. One of the ones that I like to use is Poly Select. So, talk to me about those options.
Yeah, sure. Fabric's another option. So we talked vinyl based. You have fabric based options, and we have actually three different thicknesses in the poly selects. And I've seen a lot of fun uses of this in banner situations. But poly select light, medium, and heavy are the three. Those all have water resistant coatings on them, and they're very, very. I would say. Uh, Artistic looking because they are fabric, so people will not only use them in banner circumstances, but they're also using them for backdrops and artistic methods of like maybe doing a table skirt or something fun like that with that type of
And
product.
then, so it has their own, it's Scrim Banner Vinyl. What's the difference between that and the thrifty tough coat?
So the Canon is actually, I believe, a three layer. It's got the block out in the middle and smooth on both sides. So if you want a smooth material that doesn't have a waffle back or textured back, then you're going to go with the Canon product.
So, why would you use a synthetic film over a reinforced type product?
So that's the next one we're gonna go over, and that's actually, considered, almost a plasticky film feeling, right? So the reason you would go with that over, say, a fabric or a vinyl is it's gonna be shorter term. So we usually say vinyl you can get up to 6 months outdoor, right, use on, especially if you're coating it, which we'll talk about later. But and then fabrics, kind of the same shorter term outdoor, 3 months, and then you're talking films, which are going to be a lot less cost wise, probably half of what a traditional banner vinyl would cost. And that's really per for typical things that only are going to be shown for maybe up to 30 days, and you can do indoor or outdoor. And it's really just promotional use and one time throw it away kind of thing.
Now, one of the products that I've seen over the last few years starting to pop up to where people are thinking outside of the box and taking something that wasn't really made to be used for banners, but they're saying, hey, if it works for this, it can work for that because of how it's made. Talk to me about Tyvek.
Tyvek's an interesting one. When it came in, we didn't really know where it fit, but when we felt it and started messing around with grommeting it and the tear resistance of it, it had really a lot of properties of what you need for typical banner, water resistance, all those things. And it doesn't absorb moisture, so really a nice product for outdoor or indoor. And the nice thing about it is, even after you put ink on it, it's recyclable. So people can print and give their customers the suggestion, hey, put it in the recycling bin instead of throw it in your garbage, and it doesn't end up in a landfill and everybody feels good about it. It's nice and, recyclable. So
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it used that way, there were contractors or construction companies that were buying the printable Tyvek so they could put their name on it.
mhm.
So while the house was wrapped in Tyvek, waiting for the surface to go on top of it, everybody that rode by saw this company's construction on this house the whole time it was sitting there. And I guess they thought, if it works for that,
Yeah,
we
why
could
not?
put this on the fence on the outside.
Yep.
So I saw construction companies start to use Tyvek for that. And I guess as that started working, all the people that were selling Tyvek were like, well, heck, we can use this as an
Yeah.
option. So people just started using it. It's interesting as technology expands and new products are created, people start like testing. What can I
Yeah.
do with this? What
What can
can
we
I
put a
do with
coating
that?
on so it could receive ink?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about coatings.
Yeah.
So tell me, if you want what you've produced to last longer outside, what are our options?
So based on what you're using, we can make a recommendation, but the Marabou product line has a whole slew of solutions that you can put onto these, either sprayed on or rolled on to add that UV protection, durability. If you're going to roll it up or if it's going to, be outside taking the elements, you definitely would add that extra protective layer if you're expecting it to go up to 6 months and be used for a longer period of time.
All right, so we've got it set for lamination. So we know what we can do to make it look good and last long outside. What about mounting? I mean, there's a lot of different options. And I think most people they think of grommets, which we'll talk a little bit about, but there's other options. So talk to me about the different mounting options.
I think the whole reason we are bringing Banner to light to Canon users is because it's something that is easy to add. Right, they don't. It's very trainable for the employees to be able to do this. So if you have a company out there and you think you got too many things going on, you don't want to add another thing to the mix because it's going to be hard to produce. It's not right. That the banner is very simplistic. You're printing to it. You're either using a double-sided adhesive tape and hemming it, and then grommeting through that two-layer in each corner, right? So, or you're adding banner ups, which is another typical use of, you're going to hem it and then you're going to put banner ups in it, which is basically just adhesive tabs. It's super simple. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do it, right? And that method is really good for films. So when we're talking about the polypropylenes and even the Tyvek, banner ups stick excellent to those. And really, you're not puncturing the product. You're not, worried about ripping it anymore because you're using those reinforced tabs. And you can even grum it through those if you want. So it's just an easy, simplistic method of production that you can get done in 10 minutes. I mean, it comes off the printer, and you can do all of those things that I just talked about in less than 10 minutes each. So you could produce high amounts and do good volumes, and there's good markup on it.
Are there any products you shouldn't be grommeting?
So yes, good point. Yes, if you're going to use films, specifically any polypropylenes that are 9 mil or lower, that aren't reinforced. So we have some polypropylenes that are almost put together like a sandwich. There's one that's called production display film, and it has a middle layer of polyethylene, polyethylene, and two layers of polypropylene on the outside. It's kind of like an Oreo. So that middle layer of polyurethane, you can grum it through. It's very tear resistant. But if it's by itself, polypropylene will tear really easily if you nick it and you compromise it. So we definitely recommend banner ups in that instance.
So you mentioned a bunch of different products earlier on. What do we have in terms of support for profiles for that? Because it's one thing to have access to all these great materials. It's another thing to know, all right, if I'm going to print on this, I want it to look good. I mean, I want my colors to look better. I want to make sure I don't have banding. What do we have in terms of a resource for anybody that buys any of these products to use specifically with this lineup of Canon printers?
Yeah, so everything that we manufacture, we have the Canon printers here, the models that are up on our website at lexia.com under the support tab, ICC profiles, select your printer, you'll see all the categories that are in there. Just choose that banner category, or if you're using a film, choose the film category. And you'll see all of the available profiles for the Thrifty banner, the Tyvek, all the polypropylenes. So pretty much everything we're writing those circumstances for. So ICC profiles and how it's supposed to run. Different materials that are thicker run slower, faster. You've got to kind of adjust for those in the settings with the speeds, and we have all that, in packaged in those AM1X files that we always talk about that we produce here.
So now this is kind of the fun part. You and I have both been in the industry for a long time and we've seen just about every use for every product out there. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've seen and some of the things that I've done in my own business that have worked really well in terms of uses for banners. So, talk to me about some of the things that you've seen banners used for.
Uh, I mean, there's a lot. I would say one of the coolest things was tapestry that where you're basically pull pocketing the top and bottom and sliding a nice elegant dowel into it and then putting it in the background with some advertising or whatever you're going to try to promote, right? So that's a really cool way to show it. I have seen people using the fabric, like you said, that you liked, the polyselect lights, mediums, heavies in a trade show environment, or even in like if you're going to bridal shows and you're bringing a table with you and you want to make a table skirt, putting the male end on the table of the Velcro, adhesive back Velcro, and then putting the female end on your back of your fabric and then wrapping the entire bottom of the table so that, you have a nice presentation there, and then maybe putting a decal on top of the table so the whole entire table's covered. That's kind of one of those things that's, outside of the box thinking that you didn't probably know you could do with those Canon printers. And it really does make an effect on the wow presentation, right? We're all here to draw people in by showing off our printers and showing off what we can do. And actually backdrops too, one of those things that, photographers probably pay hundreds of dollars for, and you could produce it for under, $60 at a big wide size. I know that was something you were doing, right?
Oh, yeah. Before we jump to that, back to trade shows. You and I had an experience. We were doing a trade show in Nashville, Tennessee one year, and there was a snowstorm. Your booth completely set up, ready to go. You got a Canon Pro Series printer sitting in the middle of it. The booth across from you, their pallet didn't make it.
Oh, that's right. I
And the
remember
young
this.
lady that
Yeah.
was running this booth literally was sitting in her booth in tears because not only did she not have a booth and wasn't going to have a booth, but they had shipped in carpet. And this particular show said if you don't have carpet in your booth and you didn't prepay for it, you get fined. So they had to have something on the floor. She had nothing for the floor, nothing for her background, nothing. And I walked over to you and literally your booth is facing theirs and they're competitors. They literally are selling against you.
Yeah.
I said, "Do you have any of the Thrifty Tough Coat?"
Yeah. Tough Coat
And you're
Thrifty
like
banner.
and you're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Yeah, we've got a
We
roll of
brought
it
like
here."
3 rolls,
And I
thankfully.
said, "Look, would this hold up to traffic on the floor?" And you're like, "Yeah, I don't see why not. As long as we've got some type of carpet tape, we should be fine." I had a file of a barn floor and you printed the entire floor for I think it was a 10 by 20 booth,
Yep.
maybe or 10 by 10, I can't remember. But you printed a floor file and taped that down. And then you printed the background of their booth. So you took the entire scene for the background. She had access to some of the sales and the things they were doing. So you printed it and seamed it all
Mhm.
together. So their entire booth was printed.
I
She
do
set up
remember
a
that.
couple of
Yeah.
chairs and a table in there and got some flyers printed. So you saved their show for them on this. I mean,
Yeah.
they had nothing. The show was 3 days with over 10,000 people constantly, and they were on a corner, so people were flying through their booth. And I remember at the end of the show, the floor looked like it had just been printed.
Yeah. Yeah. It holds up nicely. I mean, the surfaces are very durable, and the nice thing about Thrifty Banner is that it's heavyweight, right? So It when you put it on a say like a U frame where you have the pole at the top and you're pocketing it, you're sliding it onto it, just lays nice and flat. So you get that nice presentation. It's not curling up on the edges. It doesn't look, like it's tunneling at all. It's just a nice product altogether. I mean, we sell a ton of it. It's just a great solution.
So the funny thing is, the next show a month later, same company ships a printer in, ships the rolls of media in, and they print their entire booth at the show. They shipped nothing else in,
That's funny.
and they made it the entire story and the theme. Hey, our entire booth is printed. That was their sales point. We printed our booth here. If
Nice.
we can do this with this material and this printer, what can you do for your business?
Yeah,
And I'm sitting
absolutely.
here thinking, well, thanks for buying all this material from LexJet.
Yeah.
But it worked. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
and the
works.
reality is the proof was in the pudding. You saved their show and then you gave them an entire new sales
Exactly.
pitch for
It
the
just
next
goes to
show.
show you, like, if you have a printer, you can do so much more for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, as far as internal marketing and producing things that are promoting specials and things that are going on around you. So you're not outsourcing those things. You can do them yourself. You can produce things at fraction of the costs and you can do them really beautifully because those printers, the printers are printing fantastic looking images that are super saturated. They're not signage printers. They're fine art printers. Most of, those print heads in there can print photographic output. So I think that's one of those things that people don't think about is I've got a real photographic printer, but to get outside of the box, I got to start thinking about all these other things that I can do that are capable. We can now print banner material and you can do these things that we're talking about. It's just like printing paper. It's not like printing some crazy, thing you've got to learn how to do. There's not a lot of, there's nothing to it. It's still the same process. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, to this day, so I still do a lot of photography on the side. My evenings and weekends are usually spent photographing sports and teams and stuff like that. And I make a good living on the side just doing something that I enjoy doing off of the printing of the banners. And it's really nice. I've got the printers set up, and depending on what they're doing, whether it's indoors or outdoors, I choose.
Yeah.
So if it's an outdoor one, I'm using the Thrifty Tough Coat and I'm coating it with some clear shield from Marabou so that I know it's going to hold up. And they're only leaving these out. I mean, these are out there for 30 to 60 days. So they probably don't really need to be coated,
Mhm.
but it's one of those better safe than sorry. Just you want it to hold up because usually at the end of the season they're giving it to the athletes so
Yeah,
that
and
they
if
can
you're
have
looking
it.
at the cost of it, it's worth juice is worth the squeeze because you're only spending like $2 or $3 on the coating for a 6-foot banner, and your customer gets that, warm, fuzzy feeling that it's protected and you're protected too, because if somebody puts it in the back of their car and something rolls over it, it's not going to mar it or, it's protected
Exactly.
from all that stuff.
And
So,
then on the indoor sports, if it's basketball, volleyball, cheerleading, one of those where it's indoors, I'm just using the Poly Select.
mhm,
And what's really nice about the Poly Select, number one, we're just having a grom at the top. The best part, it has no curl to it.
right,
Like
lays flat.
that stuff hangs right. It comes off the printer, off of a roll, and it lays flat. It
How
doesn't
did
curl up. It
you
doesn't.
get into, talking about that with the schools? You're saying you're going into gyms, gymnasiums and stuff with like, tell us about that a
So,
bit.
I mean, I've done college and professional sports since the mid 90s, early to mid 90s. And when COVID hit down here, because I wasn't traveling for work anymore, but most sports had shut down in Florida, high school sports didn't. So I'm like,
Right.
well, I have extra time. I'm not traveling. I'll start doing some high school sports. And I started photographing some of the local teams. And I only did college and pro sports. I didn't know the business side of what they expect. And they're like, hey, we need banners for our seniors. I'm like, okay, what's that? I didn't know. I'd never done this. And they're like, well, we hang them on the in the gym for basketball and volleyball, and we hang them on the field for football and baseball. So we just need these different things. And I'm like, well, I've got printers. And I talked to other photographers and they're like, yeah, we send these out. There's these companies that we send them out and let them print them, let them handle them. And when they told me what they were spending on them, I'm like, man, I got a printer. I could do this myself. And I actually called you and I said, hey, what are they? These are the applications based on what I'm doing. What do you recommend? And you're the one that recommended those materials. And number one, I was able to do it myself,
Yeah.
but the cost of what it was for me to do it versus outsourcing it and also knowing that it was going to look good, it was fractional. So now the cost that I'm passing along to the schools was a lot less. And they're like,
Mm.
wow, not only do we love our photographer, we're spending a lot less on the banners than we
Yeah.
used to because the savings, I would just pass the savings along.
Sure.
So it was just one of those things where it was the next logical transition for me of from a business perspective of being able to offer that.
Yeah, and
And
you've already got the clientele in front of you. They're already buying things from you, and it's at that point an add-on bonus, right? It's
exactly.
like, I feel like that's a lot of our customers out there that are just already doing a lot of printing. And this is one of those things that's like, okay, well, hang it up in your foyer, right? Get a banner stand. That's another application we didn't discuss yet, but you can use films
Hmm.
like these same types of films that go into the banner applications can go into a banner stand easily. And then you can advertise, hey, I'm doing this banner stand application and I'm doing banners and birthdays, all the events that you can sell to your customers that are already thinking of, okay, well, where can I go for that? They're going to go online. They might get it in 2 weeks. It might look so, right? A lot of those printers out there for these quick print banners are not going to be as high quality. So I think that's the value add is one, they're getting it right then and there because you could produce it really quickly and turn it around fast. And then two, it's going to be just blow people away with the image quality that the Canons can produce. So,
And you had a tip that was really good. Something I probably wouldn't have thought
ah,
of
yeah,
if you're printing these banners,
right,
something that you
right.
do.
Yeah.
So
So,
talk to me about
all
this.
right. So instead of, when you have something that's an event, don't put the year on it, right? If you want April 15th to be an event that you're selling things on, don't put the year because then you can wrap it up, put it away, or Thursday or Wednesday. Use generic dates. Don't put the actual full date on it because those things can roll up in stow. Get a cardboard tube, store them in cardboard tubes. Next year rolls around that time of the year, pull it back out, reuse it. So
Yeah.
you're not completely wasting the material. You can use it over and over again, and you've got a full month of promotion under your belt that you can use that same product on.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're really all about being evergreen in our business. So it's passing tips like that along where you could print something and use it over and over again every year. Your Easter sale can be just Easter. It doesn't have to be Easter
Yeah,
2025, Easter 2020. It's just your Easter sale. You know you're
exactly.
going to have the sale every year. Don't date it. Don't make it irrelevant the next year. So I loved that tip.
Absolutely.
One of the things, and it was another thing you passed along to me, uh, where when I was working for Canon, we used to do trade shows where we would have photographers on stage at these trade shows doing shoots. And they were like, hey, we've got a bunch of these shows coming up back to back. Is there something we can do so that we can change out these backgrounds? And I went to you and I said, hey, I've got this system that holds a 60-inch by, it was a 5 foot by 7 foot. Is there a product that we can print a background on that the photographers can do these shots up on stage with? And you mentioned again the Thrifty Tough Coat.
Yep.
I keep saying it wrong.
Tough
No,
Coat Thrifty
Tough Coat Thrifty.
Banner. You
I
say
keep
it
saying it
backwards. It's
backwards.
okay.
I'm backwards.
But that,
I'm
I
so
mean,
excited.
honestly, that product, and if you want something a little bit lighter weight, the Polyselect Light, because it just flows and lays flat, both of those
Mhm.
products. So if you want heavier weight, go with the Thrifty Banner. If you want lighter weight, go with the fabric.
Yeah, well, and we just took that, the 60-inch, printed it, we grommeted it in the appropriate spots, and it just stretched right out. And they just rolled it up in a tube, shipped it to the next show, shipped it. And they used it for years. Then we got to where within my business, we started doing it, and I would approach colleges that were doing, like, after the game, they would have their press conferences,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Hey, I can print that step and repeat for you, so you can just roll it up," and we just take their college logo, boom, 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 boom,
Well, the
and
nice
now
thing
high
is
schools
too,
are doing it, so
non-reflective. It's matte
exactly, they're matte.
already, so you're absorbing the flash. You're not getting bounce back. You're not getting hot spots. And if you're going to coat it, go with matte because you'll have that same effect. It's not going to
Exactly.
reflect. So
Well, and if you're a school and you're printing these things, or if you're printing them for a school, yeah, it's one of those, "Hey, I can print it so that your school logo is always there," but now if it's a week-long tournament,
yeah.
now I wanna do the school logo with the logo of that tournament, boom, boom, boom. Now I have
Mm.
it specialized, and again, I can roll it up. I didn't date it. Next year, use the same one again.
Well, we talk a lot about photographers too, but we also have customers that are in-house, right? They have businesses that they're doing in-house promotion for. They buy their own printers, they do all their own in-house banners, right? So that's another demographic that's out there watching this probably and saying, "You know what? We have one of those printers and had no idea that we could do that." So just another market reach that we're getting to.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
you don't have to just do it for yourself either. There's schools that I've gone into that they've purchased a Canon printer
mhm.
and they bought it to print for themselves, that they're now offering services. They've sent out emails to the parents and said, "Hey, while you're dropping your kids off, come into the office. We actually will print your prints for you. It's and the money goes directly to the school." So schools,
Graduation banners.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well,
Why not?
or no, for businesses like if dad's there and dad's got a presentation in a couple of days and he's going to have to go to a different business and spend that money to print this presentation.
I
Well,
gotcha.
now he
Yeah.
can print the exact same presentation at his kid's school, spend the same money, but now that money goes to help his kid's school
Oh, I see what you mean. Sure,
instead
sure.
of this other company. So even schools are getting like, hey, we've got this printer. It's sitting idle. Why not make some money with it? So you're starting to see schools and other businesses look and say, what can I do so that this printer makes money for me, passive income, where it's not just printing for my business? Photographers are saying, okay, I'm going to print all this stuff for my clients, but what can I print for other businesses that have needs? I
Yeah.
mean, if
I
it's
mean, every time
there,
we always have that saying, if a printer's printing, it's printing money, right? Because, either you're selling things off of it or you're using it for promotions and those are making sales for you. So you got to keep your ideas and your mind open to other things. I think that's why we have these, right? We always talk about, new solutions. What can people do to add things to the mix of their products? And this is one of the easier ones, right? I mean, we talked about it before. We went over Canvas already. We talked about how easy that one is. This is actually simple, super
Mhm.
simple, and you vouch for it. I mean, it's
Oh, absolutely. And well,
totally
and
easy.
that's the beautiful thing about the Canon series of printers, whether it's the Pro, the GP, the T, the TM, the TX, it doesn't matter which one it is. They are all so easy to use, and there's so many different products already out there and constantly new ones being produced that kind of the sky's the limit. I mean, the limitation is your imagination. If you can come up with it, there's probably a product out there that'll work on those machines. They'll let you do those solutions. Doesn't matter what it is. And banners is just one more of those things. Michael, this was great. As always, it's
Yeah,
always
we had
great to sit
fun.
here with you
Have
and
a
kind
good
of
time.
riff and go back and forth on these. I think half the time there's stuff that we didn't even plan on talking about that's like, oh, 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 I got this
Yeah,
great idea. So it's always great to sit down with you and have these conversations.
it's fun.
Thanks so much for spending the day with me
Yeah,
today.
thanks, Pete.
If you have any questions about products we discussed or need help finding the right Canon printer for your needs, give us a call at 800 4 LexJet. And for your printing and supply needs, visit us at lexjet.com.